The recovered evidence entry appeared before anyone at the Ashford County Station checked the prior custody history of Seal B6412. Danielle Lawson did not know that yet. She was standing on the shoulder of County Route 47, one hand resting lightly on the roof of her dark sedan, the other hanging open beside her gray coat. She was waiting for Officer Russell Dane to finish doing what he had called a routine vehicle inspection. Her license was valid. The registration was active. Both taillights worked. The trunk had been closed when the stop began. For several quiet seconds, that should have been the whole story. Danielle had entered the county at 11:17 on a rain-covered Thursday night, traveling 3 miles per hour above the posted limit. 2 vehicles had passed Russell's patrol position before her. The first was a white pickup, moving faster than she was. Russell watched it continue. The second was a silver crossover that changed lanes without signaling. He did not move for that one either. Then Danielle's sedan passed beneath the highway lamp. Russell looked at the car first, then at the woman driving it. Then, at the out-of-county plate, he pulled onto the road. Rain moved across Danielle's windshield in thin, even lines. She checked the rearview mirror and saw the cruiser settle several car lengths behind her. She lowered her speed. The cruiser remained there. A mile later, the lights came on. Danielle used her signal and stopped near marker 83, exactly where the shoulder widened beside a utility pole. She placed the vehicle in park, lowered the window, and kept both hands visible. Russell approached with his flashlight raised. License and registration. "My wallet is inside my coat," Danielle said. "The registration is in the center console." "Get them." She moved slowly. Russell examined the license, longer than the registration. "Danielle Lawson." "Yes. You live 2 counties over. That is the address on the license. What brings you through here this late?" "I am returning home." Russell directed the flashlight toward the dashboard, then across the seats. The car was clean. A travel mug rested in the cup holder. A folded rain jacket lay behind the passenger seat. Nothing moved inside the cabin. Russell looked toward the rear of the sedan. "You know your left taillight is intermittent?" Danielle glanced at the mirror. "It was working when I checked before leaving. It went out when you passed me." Russell had already walked behind the car. Both lights were glowing red against the wet pavement. He returned to the window. "Step out so I can verify the equipment. Are you inspecting the light or searching the vehicle?" Russell's expression changed only slightly. "You are delaying a routine stop." Danielle unfastened hair seat belt. "I am stepping out." She moved to the front of the sedan and placed one hand on the roof. Russell walked toward the trunk. He did not ask for consent. He pressed the release button inside the open driver's door and lifted the lid. Danielle could not see his right hand from where she stood. The camera mounted on the utility pole could. Russell reached inside his rain jacket. A small plastic bag appeared between his fingers. A blue evidence seal crossed its upper edge. B6412. He lowered the bag beneath the spare tire cover and closed the panel. The movement took less than 4 seconds. Then he stepped back, lifted the panel again, and called out with rehearsed surprise. "Ma'am, come over here." Danielle walked to the rear of the sedan. Russell pointed his flashlight at the bag. "Can you explain this?" She looked at the plastic, then at the blue seal. Her breathing changed once. Not panic, recognition. "What time are you recording the recovery?" Russell looked at her. "I asked whether this belongs to you." "No." "What is your occupation?" "That does not change where the bag came from." Russell's jaw tightened. "Turn around." Danielle did not resist. He cuffed her hands behind her back and read the arrest as a narcotics recovery from a lawful vehicle inspection. At the station, Russell placed the bag on Megan Price's evidence counter. Lieutenant Harold Bishop signed the property line before Megan scanned it. The scanner gave a low warning tone. Megan looked at the screen. Prior custody record detected. Destruction status. Conflict. Harold leaned over her shoulder. Old migration error. Use manual intake. Megan's hand remained above the keyboard. Across the room, Danielle sat inside the holding area, with rainwater still darkening the shoulders of her coat. Megan selected manual intake, but she did not clear the warning. Beneath the new arrest number, seal B6412 remained connected to another case. a case opened almost 10 years earlier. The warning remained in the system after Megan closed the intake screen. That was the first thing Harold Bishop failed to notice. The second was the time. Russell Dane had entered the recovery location at 12:14. The evidence bag did not reach Megan's counter until 12:21. Harold had signed the property line at 12:18. Danielle sat behind the holding room glass and watched Megan compare the wall clock with the monitor. Megan brought her a paper cup of water. "Do you need to call someone?" "Not yet." Megan glanced toward Russell's desk. He was already writing his report. Danielle accepted the cup. "Who inspected the seal before the lieutenant signed for it?" Megan looked back at her. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she returned to the counter. Russell's report appeared in the shared queue before the physical intake was complete. He wrote that Danielle's taillight had failed intermittently. He wrote that she had agreed to an equipment inspection. He wrote that her behavior became unusually controlled when he approached the trunk. He wrote that the plastic bag had remained in his sight from recovery through booking. None of those statements matched the sequence Megan had just watched. Harold opened the report and approved it without leaving his chair. "Close the evidence exception," he said. Megan reopened the seal history. B6412 had been assigned to a narcotics case involving Marcus Turner nearly 10 years earlier. The local record marked the contents destroyed. No disposal receipt was attached. No second witness appeared on the destruction form. The supervisor's signature belonged to Harold Bishop. Megan looked toward him. "This seal has a prior case. Old labels were reused before the conversion. The old case says, destroyed. Then the warning is historical. It is identifying the same number." Harold leaned closer. "Manual intake exists for a reason." Megan's probation had ended years earlier, but Harold still controlled her schedule, system access, and eligibility for the evidence certification course she had requested twice. She selected the override field. "The system asked for a reason," Harold said. "Vendor migration correction." Megan typed the words. Then, she stopped. She erased them. In the reason box, she entered. Supervisor directed timestamp change. Harold had already turned away. The audit line saved under her employee number. Inside holding, Danielle heard Russell speaking to another officer. "People think staying calm makes them look innocent." The officer laughed. Danielle looked at the camera above the doorway. Its angle covered the bench but not the threshold. For the first time that night, she wondered whether the outside team could see her clearly. She counted 4 breaths. Then 5. She checked the position of the wall clock. 12:37. Across town, Tessa Morgan received the duplicate seal alert through an independent cloud mirror. The system did not identify corruption. It identified an impossible custody history. 1 seal number. 2 cases. 1 destruction record between them. Tessa opened the archived Marcus Turner file. The original property photograph showed the blue seal intact. The destruction certificate carried Harold's signature. Access history showed Detective Colin Reeves had opened the old case 3 times during the previous 6 months. Tessa sent the alert to Special Counsel Rebecca Sloan. Rebecca did not order the station entered. The roadside act had been recorded. The false arrest had been documented. But the operation was not complete until the department decided whether to reject the evidence or adopt it. At 1:16, Harold told Megan to change the intake time so it matched Russell's report. Megan opened the edit screen. A message appeared. "Original value will remain visible to outside audit." "Do it," Harold said. She entered the new time. She did not remove the original. At 2:40, the duty prosecutor declined immediate charges because the evidence origin conflict had not been resolved. Russell called it a software problem. Danielle was released pending review. She collected her coat, phone, and keys. No one apologized. Half a block from the station, she entered a plain gray sedan. She used an encrypted handset. "Controlled contact complete," she said. The planting occurred. Local intake adopted the evidence. Duplicate seal confirmed. Rebecca answered with one instruction. "Do not access the case again." Before sunrise, a judicial preservation order reached the county systems. Body camera files became read-only. Cruiser location data copied to an outside archive. Property edits froze in place. Complaint records involving Russell Dane could no longer be changed locally. At 7:12, Harold tried to reopen the Marcus Turner destruction certificate. The system denied him. For the first time, the department could still see its records. It simply could not rewrite them. Later that morning, Harold placed a statement in front of Megan. It said the duplicate warning had appeared after intake. "Sign it." Megan read the sentence. Then she looked at the unchanged original timestamp. "No." Harold lowered his voice. "You need to think about your position here." Megan moved the statement back across the counter. "I am." She opened the integrity preservation channel and attached the warning screen. The supervisor directed edit, and the property log signed before the scan. She still did not know who Danielle Lawson was. She only knew the seal could not belong to two stories. 3 days later, Russell entered a county evidence interview, expecting a software audit. Danielle sat at the witness table in the same gray coat. Rebecca introduced her as Special Agent Danielle Lawson, the controlled witness in the highway operation. Then she placed 2 case files on the table. One belonged to Danielle, the other belonged to Marcus Turner. Both carried seal B6412. Seal B6412 could not belong to both cases. Rebecca Sloan began there. The county evidence warehouse had been placed under independent control. Russell Dane sat at one end of a steel table. Lieutenant Harold Bishop sat several feet away. Colin Reeves waited with counsel near the loading doors. Danielle Lawson remained at the witness table. She wore the same gray coat from the stop. No badge was displayed. Tessa Morgan opened the custody ledger. The first entry belonged to Marcus Turner. The seal had been photographed intact nearly 10 years earlier. The case record later marked the contents destroyed, but there was no disposal receipt, no verified weight reconciliation, and no second witness. Harold had signed the destruction certificate. 6 months before Danielle's arrest, Colin had reopened the archived record 3 times. The second entry belonged to Danielle. Russell had recorded the recovery location before the evidence reached the station. Harold had signed the property line before Megan Price scanned the bag. The utility pole footage showed Russell's hand leaving his jacket and entering the spare tire well. His body camera audio captured Danielle asking whether the stop was an inspection or a search. It recorded no consent. Russell leaned toward the table. The angle does not show what was already inside the vehicle. Rebecca placed a laboratory photograph beside his report. A narrow line of rainwater ran beneath one edge of the adhesive seal. The bag was placed there during the stop. Russell looked toward Harold. Harold did not look back. Rebecca moved to the selection of Danielle's car. Patrol records showed 2 vehicles had passed Russell at higher speeds. Neither had been stopped. His previous searches clustered on 3 isolated roads. Most involved Black or Latino drivers traveling alone. The pattern did not prove every stop false. It proved Danielle had not been selected randomly. Megan entered next. She admitted choosing manual intake after seeing the duplicate warning. She also admitted waiting before using the integrity channel. That delay became a formal failure to report finding, but she had preserved the original exception, recorded Harold's timestamp instruction, refused the false affidavit, and submitted the audit package before learning Danielle was a federal agent. Megan received a suspension and lost manual override authority for 1 year. She also received whistleblower protection and a direct reporting line outside the department. Harold's findings were more severe. He had signed before inspection, ordered an unsupported override, pressured Megan to change the timeline, and tried to reopen the destruction certificate after the preservation order. He was terminated for cause. His state certification was permanently revoked. He later entered a guilty plea to false official certification and attempted obstruction. The court barred him from holding any public safety management position. Colin's access history connected the seal to missing narcotics from other closed cases. Financial records then connected him to Graham West's logistics company. Colin pleaded guilty to evidence theft and conspiracy. His cooperation reduced his sentence, but he still received several years in federal custody. Graham lost his import license. His company entered independent compliance receivership. Assets tied to the conspiracy were transferred into a victim compensation fund. Russell's final findings listed selective targeting, evidence planting, false arrest, false reporting, evidence tampering, and deprivation of rights. He was terminated and permanently decertified. During the criminal case, he was required to sign a factual stipulation. The sealed bag had come from police custody. He had carried it to the highway. It had never been inside Danielle's vehicle before the stop. Those 3 statements appeared beneath his name. Russell pleaded guilty after the court admitted the utility pole footage, the seal history, and the immutable intake audit together. He received a federal prison sentence measured in years, restitution obligations tied to the affected cases, and a permanent prohibition against working in law enforcement, private security, or evidence management. The targeted review covered cases with duplicate seals, missing destruction receipts, or supervisor-directed timestamp changes. Marcus Turner's case was first. His conviction was vacated. His criminal history record, housing screen, employment databases, and state licensing file were corrected. Court costs were reimbursed. His compensation claim was approved for expedited review. A training program that had rejected him because of the conviction reopened his application without requiring him to explain the old case again. Ashford County dissolved the Narcotics Interdiction Unit. Drug evidence custody moved to an independent county bureau for 3 years. An outside monitor received direct access to seal histories, destruction records, override logs, and racial disparity data. Quarterly findings had to be published without officer names, but with enough detail to show whether the same patterns were returning. The new evidence provenance standard prohibited local supervisors from clearing duplicate seal alerts. Evidence had to be physically scanned before certification. Timestamp edits retained their original values and the name of the person ordering the change. Destruction required 2 witnesses, a vendor receipt, weight reconciliation, and an immutable cloud record. Several weeks after the final order, Danielle returned home from work. Her gray coat hung beside the door. A voicemail from her father waited on the kitchen counter. She filled the kettle and pressed play. He was describing a leaking porch step and asking whether she might visit on Sunday. The water began to move before the message ended. Danielle turned off the kettle before it whistled and let her father finish the message. This is a fictional story.